Will you welcome the man who's that magnificent writer, a great dramatist, it's Mr. Truman Capote, Mr. Tennessee Williams.
The great accomplishment of In Cold Blood is that I never appear once. I wanted to write a book that would read exactly as though it were a novel, except that every word of it would be absolutely true.
I think the only thing I've done that is an autobiographical work was The Glass Menagerie.
It was the first hit that I had.
I really think you've written a masterpiece here.
Thank you.
How did I write? We all have a great desire to escape from ourselves.
People always saying, are you happy? I think it's the most idiotic question I know. I mean, nobody is happy.
You're very frank about your homosexuality in the memoirs.
I was aware, of course, for a long time before it ever surfaced.
I just felt things would be easier if I were a girl.
I've known Tennessee a long time. Our friendship has had its ups and downs. Here is a man who has devoted his whole life to art and is a genius.
Why do writers fall in and out of friendship with each other?
Well, jealousy, don't you think? Most people think because somebody is a creative individual, they must be intelligent. It is not so, like Tennessee Williams.
Capote's a liar, and everyone knows he is.
It really was a sort of intellectual friendship, though people inevitably thought otherwise.
Now, I don't care what anybody says about me as long as it isn't true.
I'm talking too intimately to you. Let's get on to something more general.
Lisa, what a fascinating documentary. I'm a literary kind of guy, and I had no idea the friendship and relationship of these two titans of literature, Truman Capote and Tennessee Williams, a dual portrait documentary. When were you first aware of this friendship and to tell their story?
Well, you know what? I wasn't immediately aware of their friendship. And what was really exciting about it was that, I had originally planned to make a Truman Capote film. And you know what happens often in the film world, things can get in front of you, and there was another Capote film that was being made. And my producer, Mark Lee, suggested to me that we add Tennessee into it. And then all of a sudden, it just opened the doors to this really fantastic story. And it was so exciting to be able to put it together and to craft it in the way that we wanted. But they had so many common themes, but then there were other, then they were also quite different.
And tell me about the challenges in telling the story of your subjects who have been long gone, because obviously you have to find photos and stock footage and archival interviews. I mean, it sounds like a challenge.
I think that's what I love to do. And it seems like maybe it's become a little bit more my specialty because I really love archival material. And it is really nice to be able to bring them to life. I love photography. I love finding collections of photographies. And we have a lot of photographs by a photographer by the name of David Atty, and there are 38 images that have never been seen. I literally pulled them out of his son's archive, and being able to use the words of these literary giants is so exciting because we have them coming to life, with the talent of Jim Parsons, who plays Truman Capote, and Zach Quinton, who plays Tennessee Williams, and how lucky are we to be able to have them bring these voices and beautiful words to life.
You're almost like a cinematic archaeologist, collecting these photos and interviews. Was there something particular during this journey that you discovered that you didn't know before, or thought, wow, this is other than those photographs you said haven't been seen? Was there just something that really you just kind of stopped yourself and went, this is amazing?
I have to say there's, I can't profess to be an expert on anybody, any of the characters who I really love to tell these stories on. And so for me, it's like I'm a student. I'm going in, I'm trying to understand who they are. And there were certain things about their friendship that I didn't know. I didn't know even that they were such good friends and that there were so many parallels. I did find out, and we do discuss it in the film, I did find out that they both went to Dr. Feelgood in the 60s, which is, it was such a great story to be able to share with all of you. And, but I'm always discovering things, and it's so nice to be able to have the opportunity to tell these stories because, I learn, and hopefully I teach someone in the audience something, a younger generation, and perhaps an older generation, I show them something new.
You know, apart from being great writers, gay and drug addicts, coming from the South, considering the time they lived, I mean, these two finding each other, they had to have just had some sort of confidence in each other because they were the same, but also they were different, which was, you know, they almost looked after each other, but then also, I mean, they just talk smack about each other. It's just, I was really just shocked about this love-hate relationship they had.
You know, I think you have these two creative forces, and they both were creative in different ways, because I think that Tennessee Williams was, you know, he had this inner voice that wanted to come out. He wanted to talk about his depression. He wanted to talk about his sexuality. He wanted to talk about all these things, and he wanted to bring it out to the public, which was so important because it really changed the vernacular of theater worldwide. And of course, Capote did this as well, but in a very different way, because Capote also was somebody who really constructed a new version of his life from a very young age. And so they both kind of were honest about themselves in very, very different ways. But they were also, I mean, one thing I think is very important to note is that they're both gay men who are publicly gay. And it was very courageous also at that time.
And casting Zachary Quinto and as Tennessee Williams and Jim Parsons as Truman Capote, I assumed you had discussions about the narration that you didn't want them to do impressions, because Truman Capote, I mean, is one of the most classic, you know, everyone does his voice, right? Or at least during the time.
I know we did. And what was so nice is that both Jim and Zach wanted to make their own contribution, and it was more about an emotion through the words that were being said. And, you know, and they both really worked hard on it and discussed it. They discussed it with each other. And I was really there just to guide them along because, you know, they're the ones who are the creative artists. But it was, you know, I mean, luckily for the film, there was a pandemic going on, so they were not flying all over the world working on so many different film projects, and they had the time and they really had the desire to contribute to this. And it's so nice that they made the time for this. I mean, I really am so thankful to both of them.
They really bring a quality to the documentary. That's just, you know, my first experience with Truman Capote is when I was 11 years old, and I saw Neil Simon's Murder by Death. You know, the comedy. I know. So I didn't know who he was. You know, he was a bigger than life character, but I always catch In Cold Blood on Turner Classic Movies. I watch it every time it's on. And also with Tennessee Williams, I think every kid in high school read his plays. You know, again, with Turner Classic Movies, I watched Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Death of a Salesman with Dustin Hoffman. I even saw Brian Dennehy on Broadway play him. So as someone who's kind of like a closet fan, you know what I could say about them. This was such an insightful documentary that gave me, I love learning about the people behind the work. And you did such a great job in this. I mean, they came to life. And I think that I just have to applaud you for that. So it was such a fascinating documentary. And thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you very much. And I love the fact that you're such a fan and knowledgeable about the work, and that there's obviously, you learned a couple of new things, which makes me really happy.
Wonderful.
So thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. Good luck with the film. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.